Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Technology Mafia, and today I am doing a comparison between two 10 to 18 millimeter lenses. This is the Sony 10 to 18 millimeter f4, and I am comparing that to the Canon 10 to 18, which is an f4.5 to 5.6 lens. And in order to use that on my a6000, or a6300 I should say, I'm using the Sigma MC11 adapter with it. So before we take a look at sample photos from both of these lenses, let's take a look at what they look like up close. All right, and here they are side by side. And as you can see, the Sony 10 to 18 is a little bit smaller, shorter, more compact. The barrel is all the way in at 18 millimeters. It does extend a little bit at 10 millimeters by about a centimeter. The Canon lens, on the other hand, extends a little bit, but that's about as small as it gets. And because I have the adapter mounted to the Canon lens, it is about an inch longer than the Sony 10 to 18. Front lens element, there's a nice dome on the Sony. Canon lens has a smaller dome. Construction, the Sony definitely does feel more premium. Feels like it's made out of better parts, but that's because it should feel more premium because it costs a lot more than the $250 Canon lens. Canon has decent build quality. It's not amazing, it's just plastic, so don't expect too much from it. So there they are. Around the back, you have obviously connections, and you have the adapter connections with the Canon. Now you can't just go out there and buy a Canon EF-S 10 to 18 millimeter and a Sigma MC11 adapter and stick the two together and expect it to work. I did have to modify my lens by cutting the rear mount, and I did that in another video, and I will post a card or something down below. You can watch how I modified this so that these two parts work together. So you will have to do some modifications if you choose to go the route of Canon 10 to 18 on your Sony mirrorless camera. Now before we look at sample photos from both of these, I should say that I took all of the pictures using my a6300 because the Canon and the Sigma adapter is a no-go when it comes to using them on an a6000 and trying to get autofocus to work. It just doesn't work when taking pictures. So if you have an a6300, that's awesome. You can definitely use this. If you have an a6000, you can only use this with manual focus, in which case I wouldn't necessarily recommend this combo because it's expensive, and you can go out and get a Rokinon, which would probably give you better images, and it's a manual only focus lens. So might as well spend less money and get probably better images, but I have yet to compare the Rokinon to these two lenses. So that's enough of talking. Let's get to the good part. Let's see which one of these two lenses produces better images. Go. All right, so we are going to start here with a picture of a building, but before I get into the picture and the details, the images from the Sony 10 to 18 will be on the left side, and the images from the Canon 10 to 18 will be on the right side. All of the settings are listed here, so you can read through those if you're interested. I'm not going to read those. So let's go ahead and get into this. So this is the first image. Let's take a look at center sharpness. So both lenses look good. Neither one of them is better here. Let's say both look about the same. Let's take a look at the corner of the building. Here the Canon lens looks a little better, less soft. Let's take a look at the trees over in the corner. Here the Canon is very significantly better. Don't know what's going on with the Sony lens, but the edges do not look very good at all. And you have a significant amount of chromatic aberration here and lack of sharpness. You have a little bit of it with the Canon lens, but much less. That's quite disappointing. Let's take a look at the other side. This side is not as bad, but that purple fringing is an issue. Brick here. I would give this to the Sony. So this is kind of a mixed result. In the corners and on the edges, I would say that the Canon is better. However, in the center, the Sony appears to be slightly better. Let's move on to the next one. So this is just a walkway with some greenery. Let's take a look at the center. All right, Sony's looking good here. Canon is also looking good as well. Now I should say that the images that I took using both of these lenses were taken at the same settings. However, I did not manually focus either of the lenses. Both of these lenses are on the A6300 and I am using automatic focus. This one here, if we are looking at the very top, Canon is sharper. Let's look at the corners. That is unreal. So I don't know what's going on here. The Sony lens is horribly soft. Canon is not bad at all. Look at the light post. Wow. Very interesting. Again, same settings on both cameras, shot in manual mode. And down here, I'd say the Canon edges it out. This image I would definitely give to the Canon. This is a shot under a bridge. Let's take a look at center sharpness. So both are pretty good here. Neither one of them a clear winner. Let's take a look at the edge. Goodness gracious, I don't know what is happening with the Sony, but it is very soft. Canon is still sharp, or I should say just a lot sharper. Very poor result in the corner for the Sony. And these are at 10 millimeters, so. And this side, I would say the Canon is also a winner. Yeah, the Sony is soft here. Canon isn't very sharp, but it is still sharper than the Sony lens. Interesting. Even here in the center bottom, I'd say that the Canon lens is sharper. So this next picture is just of a building. We're trying to see if there is noticeable barrel distortion between either one of these lenses, but let's take a look at sharpness just because I'm curious. So in the center, it's about the same. No clear winner here. Sony might be a little sharper here. Let's take a look at the corners. Left side. Again, Sony soft, fringing. Canon looks a little sharper, less chromatic aberration. Right side. Same story. Sony is soft. Canon is noticeably sharper. Edge of the building. Sharper here with the Canon lens. You can, the bushes here, that's a good comparison. Much more detail with the Canon lens. The grass in front, Canon lens. I am very, very surprised by this. The Sony 10-18 at 10 is very soft on the edges. even right here in the center. Look at how sharp that Canon lens is, and look at how soft the Sony is. And both of these are shot at f4, both at 1/60th ISO 400, 10 millimeters. So neither lens has an excuse. If anything, we should be giving the edge to the Sony because it has native focusing, whereas the Canon lens is relying on an adapter and it doesn't have access to all of the autofocus points. Colors are also better here on the Canon. A little bit of vignetting. Let's see if we can go side to side. All right, so this is the Sony image, and you can tell because it's soft here in the corner. There's also less vignetting, but there is more noticeable barrel distortion. So let me switch over to the Canon. So it's sharper here. There's a little bit of vignetting in the corners, but look at the difference in barrel distortion. So Sony, Canon, Sony, Canon, Sony, Canon. The Canon image is more noticeably flat, which means it has less barrel distortion than the Sony 10-18. Wow. In this picture, I wanted to compare bokeh between these two lenses. The Sony lens was shot at f4. The Canon was shot at f5.6. Both of these are at 18 millimeters. So at the telephoto side of the zoom range. So let's look at the bokeh. So we'll zoom in on the center. And at f4, as you would expect, the bokeh is slightly more creamy, but it honestly is not that big of a difference. The bokeh at f5.6 on the Canon lens is honestly just about as good. Be happy with either one. So not a huge difference here because again, you're at 18 millimeters and with wide angles, you don't really care about bokeh anyway. Here's another picture. Again, difference in colors here. Warmer with the Canon, a little less so. As far as sharpness is concerned, they are about the same here. Not much of a difference. If you look at the detail in the branches, both are adequately sharp, and surprisingly not too much chromatic aberration from either lens here. And the last shot here, this is at sunset. Let's take a look at sharpness in the center. So it's about the same. Brickwork looks about the same. Here I do prefer the colors of the Canon. Look at the corner. Neither lens is amazingly sharper than the other. I'd say that these corners are about the same. Maybe slightly better with the Sony. You can kind of read the license plate here. Let's take a look at this side. Same story, some fringing here from the Canon. Sony soft. That's sharp with the Canon, the tree is sharper. This is interesting. If you look at the picture, if I overlay one over the other, there's a Sony, here's a Canon, Sony, Canon. So you'll notice a bit of barrel distortion that's corrected with the Canon lens, and I would definitely say that the Canon lens is more pleasing to the eye. Colors are just nicer. I do like the warm tones that you get with the Canon lens. So this result definitely surprised me. I was not expecting this to happen. Honestly, what I wanted to happen was I wanted the Sony 10-18 to just blow the Canon lens away, and then I can tell everyone to forget about using the MC11 and the Canon 10-18, just go out and spend more money and get the Sony lens. But I'm kind of disappointed, honestly. I'm kind of disappointed in the performance that you're getting from this $800 lens. In the corners and in the edges, it's not very good. And that's really the conclusion here, is neither one of these lenses is perfect. I'd say that from a glass standpoint, the Canon has better glass. However, from an automatic focusing and a usability standpoint, the Sony is a better lens because you can use this in video mode, you can have continuous autofocus. You don't have that ability with the Canon and the MC11 adapter. This is a good combo if you're just using it to take photographs, but anything beyond that, you will have to manually focus. So everything in video. With a Sony lens, it's easier to just grab it, throw it in your bag, and you could use it in video, you could use it for photos. But the colors are better on the Canon, sharpness is slightly better on the Canon, distortion is less on the Canon, chromatic aberration is less on the Canon. There are a lot of reasons why this combo makes a lot more sense for those of you who are just doing photographs. So it's just kind of sad, actually. So anyway, that is the comparison between these two lenses. What I will do next is I'm interested in seeing two things. How much better or worse this 10 to 18 millimeter is compared to the kit lens at 16 millimeters. I'm curious which one of them has less distortion, has better colors, has better sharpness. And I'm also interested in comparing this to the Rokinon 12 millimeter at 12 millimeters. So I think that will be an interesting video. So I'll have those two videos in the coming weeks, so look out for those. For the time being, that's the comparison. If you guys are interested in either one of these lenses, I'll have a link to Amazon for the Sony down below. I'll also link the Canon and the Sigma MC11 adapter down below. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you learned something new. I know that I certainly did, and I was not expecting to learn what I did. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think about both of these lenses, whether you have one or the other. What is the better value? Is it worth just paying double the price for the Sony, or is it worth trying to hack your way and using a Canon lens on your a6000 or a6300? Thanks for all the likes and all the support. Stay tuned for future videos and have a nice day. Bye-bye.